Hey folks, welcome to Bear Mountain. Today in the greenhouse we're going to be doing some bumping up. Just thought we'd do a quick little walkthrough about our process of taking mini blocks and how we bump them up into 6-packs. So let's walk through the process. All right, the mix we use is a really basic thing. We use Pro Mix as a BX as a base. I guess if you looked at it, it'd be like 4 parts Pro Mix BX, 1 part perlite, fine perlite, and 1 part fine vermiculite, and then we put in another part of actual worm castings itself. So that becomes our basic potting mix that we use for putting into 6-packs. Then to hydrate it, before we use this stuff, what we'll do is we'll hydrate the mix here with some worm casting tea. We did that about 24 hours ago, so there is a bit of moisture in it already, and it's ready to go to pack the 6-packs. So what we'll do is we'll take these 6-packs, and it'll take about 12 of these in a tray, so you get 72 cells. So it's essentially the same thing as a 72 cell plug tray, except these individual trays can be, they're a little deeper than a standard plug, and they're about the same size as a 1.5 inch soil block. A little bit less soil volume in it, but it's kind of the same idea. We've talked about these before and why we use these relative to, bumping up to 2-inch blocks, and it has to do with the efficiencies plus amount of mix and how long we grow things on. So it's kind of all, the idea is basically this is a reusable plastic, so we've used these now for what, four? This will be our fourth year on these same sets. So it's not like, one and done, throw it away. We're actually getting quite a bit of use out of them. So let's we'll walk through packing the 6-packs, and then Denise is going to be bumping up today. We have stock and mini blocks. So we take our 3/4 inch mini blocks that we seed started in, and they've been air pruned on the bottom. There is no mat to them. So these guys are a little bit, we're a little bit behind because of things in general, but they're ready to bump up. They got their first set of true leaves. They're very close to it. And that's what we'll be putting into each individual cell in the 6-pack itself.
And we're not selecting.
No, we don't. We've tried that before, the select for singles versus doubles, and that just doesn't really work out.
And our designers and florists have been able to market our singles.
Yeah.
They like them.
Yeah.
So we sell them also. And we're also doing...
Yep, we got Dianthus Sweet Coral and the Sweet Series White. And I think there's there's one other one is
purple.
Purple, right. So we got 3 colors in there.
White eye.
Right. These guys were sown on the 29th of January. Today's what, 22nd? 22nd of February, so yeah, yeah. That's a palindrome. At 2:22 p.m.
No. Anyway, they're perfect they're not super leggy and floppy, so this is the perfect time. I got a few that are kind of weird, but these are the way I like them.
Yeah. So once we get these guys bumped up, then we'll water them in with some worm casting extract, and we've shown you that in previous videos. It's really a simple process, and we use that to kind of get them seeded in and get them started, and then we'll move them down to our propagation house, which gets a lot more sunlight than this greenhouse does to actually grow on to the point where we can get them in the ground. Okay, 6-packs. Really simple. Now, there's faster ways to do this, I'm sure, but it's just a matter, I would just want to make certain that we have a good packing in here. Well, like I said, the stuff is pre-dampened, and we'll wet it down one more time with some worm castings before we actually put the transplant in. That kind of makes the hole that when you make a dibble mark in the actual 6-pack, it ends up keeping its shape so you can actually get the mini block into it. And I don't know in this case on these ones if you'll put any vermiculite over the top or anything like that. I don't think you need to. Or do you usually do that?
Sometimes, yeah, just for water retention.
Or kind of like an insulation in a sense?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. It's not absolutely critical though,
It's
huh?
not critical.
Okay.
Mostly I save the vermiculite for seed starting.
Well, we had two types of vermiculite. We had a coarse and a fine.
One. It's interesting how you do it. I do it differently.
I'm just using my thumbs to...
everybody's got a different way to get to the end, but I do it differently.
Well, like I said, I'm slow. So you do it faster?
I don't know if it's faster. I do it differently.
Some people also too say, well, if you're running this kind of thing, you got to sanitize all these plastic 6-packs and stuff like that. And actually, we used to do that, spend time washing these guys out. I mean, if there's stuff, caught in the bottom of it, we want to knock it out and get it out. But
slugs and stuff.
But yeah, these things are basically dry. And if there's some previous amount of mix, I mean, it's all the contamination from our own place. And the seeds have already germinated. So what we're saying is, you know what? You got to be tough. Because I'm going to plant you into the ground anyway. It's got all the same vermin in it. So
we always say nothing in nature is sanitized.
But yeah, I mean, I can understand, if you're running a greenhouse operation and you're going to be selling this stuff, you got to make certain that it's, sanitized all the way down. But in our particular case, it's like, well, I don't think it adds anything to the process. It just takes extra time. It's another job that needs to, that has to be done. And it just doesn't really probably make a difference. We haven't found it made a difference anyway.
It's just a job nobody wants to do.
Yeah, most of it, and our survival rate on this method is pretty good. We usually get about at least 98+% that gets to field size, no problem. Okay, so tray is packed, and we'll just wet it down with some worm casting tea, and then make the dibble marks, and off she goes. Okay, why don't you walk us through what you're trying to do here?
Just creating a little dibble into the plug tray or 6-pack, so I can just drop the 3/4 inch mini block into it. It's kind of like the smaller version of your dibble stick, your doubting dibble stick. It's just a fiberglass.
Yeah, it's just a cut off piece of a fence rod. Very high tech.
Oh yeah. If it's cheap and easy, we do it. I'm not usually right under these lights, but...
Yeah, we're not in the normal place.
It's too cold outside.
Yeah, we've kind of got, even though it's bright and sunny today, we've got a good northeast wind, and so it'd be pretty noisy to be able to do this outside.
Come on, finger.
Well, it's a little cold today too, but...
Meanwhile, we have a cat fight going on the bottom.
Peas and carrots.
Being their impish little selves.
Okay, so what are you working on first?
Stock. Iron cherry. And all I do is just drop it in and pinch. And then the next one.
So how do the roots look on these guys? They're fairly well developed.
They're a little taller than I like to do this, but
so got a little leggy in here because of the light.
The light was a little... that one broke.
It's always a challenge getting the first ones out.
The first ones out are the worst.
Now, if you were kind of like doing this into 2-inch blocks, you probably would have wetted these guys down a little more, huh? So they'd kind of maybe be a little more solid.
Well, they're a little drier than I like, but if we wetted them down, they would be too wet from how I like to work with them. So I'm kind of caught in that. I should have done it yesterday. Wetted them down yesterday, and they would have been perfect. Let's turn this so that I don't keep crushing the stuff. I didn't start where I usually start. And I might gonna need to put a little more soil up around the top.
Or like vermiculite or something.
Something like that, just to give them a little more stability.
When we get these guys out into stronger light, they'll strengthen up.
Yeah. I just like them all to stand up straight, and they're not. So I have some empty blocks. Not making me happy.
This is Iron Series, right?
Yeah. It's pretty much the only one we grow now. It's just grows so straight and strong and rigid that you don't have to really net it when you're actually growing it. And beautiful colors, just assorted colors. I think I've talked about this before on another YouTube about there's just nothing wrong with these. If they could ever fix the double rate,
Is that pretty high or pretty low?
It's about half.
About 50-50?
55 is what was stated. And the interesting thing is, for me, the cherry one has always been the dang, these are really tangled. There we go. The cherry have always had more doubles than any of them.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't know why. It doesn't say it will. It just has seemed to be like that.
Which color do you think is the most popular?
This is a really popular one.
Cherry?
Yeah, it's got a hint of pink in it. It's not shockingly pink. It's just got a hint of pink. And it's really popular. It's as blush as you can possibly be. So, and I just will continue on doing this all the way down, and then I will switch to the next variety, which is iron yellow, and then the last one in this tray is iron apricot. And yellow and apricot both do very well too in terms of doubleness. The one that I think is really pretty but doesn't seem to double, have as many doubles, is marine.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's observational. I don't have any proof of it other than my own growing. I got seeded my next round of seedlings. It's got purple in it, which I haven't done.
So can you show the bottom? Are there any roots coming out of this? There's like maybe one root right there, but this is air pruned pretty well.
And it's fused.
Yep.
So it will probably be a single. However, every time I've taken the fused ones out and had nothing but,
Now fused, you mean it's only got one cotyledon leaf? That's
hooked together compared to this one.
Right, so they didn't
So
split.
this should be a double, but if I could isolate what I think is a double and what isn't, I'll find that I still will have singles.
Well, we actually found that you florists liked singles too.
They do.
They just use it differently.
Well, the interesting thing is they found that they're not as fragrant. So for people that have problems with fragrance, now I don't know this for sure, but I think they all smell wonderful, but some people have problems with the fragrance, and they say that the singles are not as fragrant. Still that same clovey, fragrance,
right,
but less. Now I don't know if that's true or not, but they just use it in more smaller arrangements when they want that fragrance and just spots of color, and it's supposed to be all small and, you know, kind of
right.
dainty. And sometimes the stock can be, some of our stock gets pretty beefy.
So why are you moving the individual six
So
packs
I
around?
don't crush them with my sleeve.
Ah, okay.
This is not how I usually do it. I usually am over there doing it in a different spot, so this feels a little...
So normally you would be rotated around. Okay, I got it.
Way, so
all right, so it's nothing, there's no real advantage other than you're just trying to compensate.
Not to crush them.
Got it.
So
I noticed that your blocks don't have too much algae on them. They got a little bit on them, but not terribly much.
They say to grow stock. Well, they've changed their mind now, but they used to say it has to have light, so don't cover them. And the same thing with my dianthus over there. To not cover them, they need light to germinate. Well, I agree, they need light to germinate, but we started covering them, or I did, decided to, oh man, these ones are falling apart. This is a good example of it falling apart.
Still too dry, huh?
I think so. Anyway, so I started putting on the very fine vermiculite, just a smattering over the top, not really trying to cover the seeds themselves, but more just covering the block with a smattering, sprinkle of vermiculite. And the problem with algae, for particularly these guys, just totally went away.
Still, you can see a little bit of a green on it, but it just doesn't grow like it used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you don't use any cinnamon or anything like that?
No.
Did you find that worked at all?
We tried it on one thing and didn't notice any difference. It doesn't get rid of anything. It just...
But we did use LAB.
Yeah, it just... You can't necessarily get rid of it.
Yeah, once it started.
Once it started, what you're doing is trying to slow it down. In our LAB, which we always have a bottle of somewhere to fix everything, definitely slowed it down.
Yeah.
So that's what we primarily use. I need a little more dirt in some of these, so that's where I usually have a little tray of soil.
Okay.
So these don't look perfect in standing, but they will.
Okay, well, let's finish off the tray and then we'll see how far we get. Okay, so you got them all planted in here.
Not all of them. The first round.
Of the iron cherry, right?
Right, and it's only... I got one tray 72 and
out of 100.
Out of 100, and there were 5 extra that germinated, but were not worth putting up. They were really tiny and deformed and what. So I opted not, which is not my usual germination rate. I usually in the mid 80s to high 80s, sometimes in the 90s. So this 72 is really disappointing.
Was this older seed?
Well, yes, but not super old. It's within the last couple of years. But stock seed typically their seed life is listed at 10 years. So I bought in the thousands, as a packet, and so I'm working my way through those. And
you keep them stored in the fridge, right?
No, these like to be just regular in a cool, dark place.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm not happy with this.
Yeah.
But I've got we're gonna see this iron yellow looks a little better, but then the apricot again doesn't look as full. So I have more stock germinating right now.
So maybe what we got out of this tray was somewhere maybe an average 70-75%.
Yeah, and that's not making me happy.
Which is what, 225 maybe out of 300?
Yes.
Well.
And the thing on that is these are one cut.
Right.
You know, so they're gonna have to be pushed up pretty tight to each other, not taking up any space, and
okay,
we'll have to have something rolling right after them.
Yep. Okay, so the last thing before you move on and do this is we put the vermiculite on it. We're gonna put more of the worm extract on it, and then these guys will perk up and stand up straight within a day or so, and we'll get them down to the a growing propagation house where they can grow on
as soon as the super cool weather is over.
So our fertilizer,
cool.
and our fertilizer, what we'll do is we'll use the Janam liquid grass fertilizer on these guys on a once a week basis, and we use a dilution of 1 to 200 on it. I sound like I'm asking a question because I'm going through my memory bank, but yeah, it's 1 to 200 dilution on it, and that seems to be working pretty good. So basically, we just got more to do. We got two more of these guys plus
that, and then we have some stuff behind us.
Right, we got some Lysianthus that needs to start bumped up, and yarrow. So we got a
couple things inside too.
So that's about it. We're just going to go through, and we've got lots more. We'll probably end up with just this first round of bumping stuff up. We'll probably do probably at least 6 more trays of 6-packs. And this is kind of the light load right now. So we're going to be getting a lot more seeds. We've got a lot of mini blocks that are just starting the germination process. So what, you got at least 12 trays inside of mini blocks?
At least 10, I think.
10
2
to
spots left open.
2 spots. Okay, so there's at least 3,000 new seedlings there, plus what we've got out here. And
things are starting to rock and roll.
Things are starting to rock and roll. Being, late February, we got to get going. So anyway, we're going to end the video here. Thanks for watching, and hope this kind of gives you an idea how we go through the bump up process. It runs a little slower when you're trying to film than when you're actually doing it. But
you might kind of explain your eye.
Do I have a bad eye?
Yes.
Oh, do you really want to see that?
No.
Well, I had a pruning accident. I was pruning some filbert trees and forgot to wear some safety goggles, and I got whipped in the face by,
a whip.
A whip. It was basically a young branch off of the filbert, just kind of thwacked the side of my eye right about here, and it caused, what do they call it? Well, they got a fancy scientific term for it, but basically it's like you busted a small blood vessel in the eye, and so it bleeds into the eye. It doesn't hurt the eye, it just looks really ugly. Kind of gives you that.
He says he can still see, but boy, it's black.
Yeah, so it kind of gives you like a red eye, kind of like something evil from a horror film.
For 3 weeks.
For 3 weeks or so, and then it just kind of goes away on its own. So hopefully it isn't too distracting, you people can see that.
Just wear safety goggles.
So yeah, learn the lesson the hard way.
That's it.
That's it today. So stay safe. We'll see you on the next video. I will stay safer by wearing safety glasses. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh,
Can you
what?
see your eye?
Wait, see my eye? What the hell? How do you turn this thing on?